My name is Olivia. I'm 42. And my own sister, a bank manager, publicly humiliated me for trying to withdraw just $150. Before I tell you how I responded by initiating a $4.2 billion asset transfer that froze their entire system and got her fired immediately, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It's comforting to know I'm not the only one who's felt invisible. To understand why I didn't scream or create a scene that day, you need to understand my family. In their eyes, I was always less. The quiet one, the one who brought handmade birthday cards instead of expensive gifts. I still remember my 10th birthday. I'd spent weeks painting a lighthouse for my parents, my small hands stained with blue and gray paint. I handed it to them proudly, my heart pounding. My father, Richard, barely glanced at it before turning to my sisters. Now Vanessa, Cassandra, what did you two get us? They'd pooled their allowance to buy a crystal vase. My mother, Helen, clapped her hands in delight, while my painting was set aside and forgotten. That moment taught me my place. I wasn't the smart one, or the pretty one, or the successful one. Vanessa was the golden child, driven and ruthless in her career. Cassandra was the social butterfly, charming, dramatic, always adored. And me, I was simply Olivia, the quiet afterthought, convenient and overlooked. That family pattern never changed. It just hardened over time. Years later, at a family dinner, I tried to share some good news. I'd been volunteering at a community garden, and we'd just received a small grant to build a children's area. I opened my mouth to speak, but Vanessa cut me off, laughing as she announced her latest promotion. The whole table shifted to her, my father glowing with pride, my mother asking what car she'd buy next. My small victory vanished into silence. I felt invisible all over again. The only person who truly saw me was my grandfather, a quiet man like me, with observant eyes that missed nothing. Before he passed, he left me a small worn wooden box. Inside was an old-fashioned key and a handwritten note for the youngest, because she has the biggest heart. Use it when they forget who you are. He also made me executor of a modest family trust fund, a safety net for all of us. It wasn't a fortune, but it was his legacy. Recently I'd noticed some strange activity in the statements, small, irregular withdrawals made by Cassandra. I felt uneasy, but brushed it aside. You always want to believe the best in your family, even when they've proven you shouldn't. Being invisible had one hidden benefit. It pushed me to build a quiet, independent life. I had my small apartment, my books, and my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, an 80-year-old widow with a radiant laugh and kind eyes. She was more of a mother to me than my own ever was. She'd call just to share recipes or funny stories about her late husband. She saw me. That cold Tuesday morning, she called, her voice trembling. Her heater had broken, and the repairman needed $150 up front. She was short on cash. Dawn set worry. I told her gently, though my heart raced, I still get it for you right now. Which is how I ended up standing in the cold, sterile lobby of Crescent Bank. Behind the manager's desk, watching me with that smug little smirk, was my sister Vanessa. When it was my turn, I stepped to the counter. Before I could speak, she glided over, heels clicking sharply. "Well, well, look what the cat dragged in," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "What can we do for you, Olivia?" "I just need to withdraw $150, I said softly. She laughed, loud and sharp, a performance for her audience. $150? Is that all?" she whispered dramatically. Loud enough for everyone to hear. "We don't usually serve beggars here. Are you sure you even have that much?" Heat rushed to my face. I could feel every eye in that lobby on me. Pity, judgment, amusement. The teller looked uneasy, and for a moment, I was that little girl again, holding her forgotten painting. The young woman at dinner, silenced mid-sentence. But this time, something inside me shifted. Not anger, just exhaustion. I was done being small. I looked her straight in the eye, said nothing, and walked out. The door hissed shut behind me. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. The worst wasn't what she did. It was what I was about to do. That night, my apartment felt suffocatingly quiet. I made tea, my hands trembling slightly. Then I opened my laptop, not the ordinary one everyone knew, but the one. I logged into my real life. A black screen appeared, minimalist and clean, shell code 7. Below it, a number $4,210,350,000. This was my secret. While my family mocked my simple life, I had built an empire in silence. Years ago, after my father said I'd never amount to anything, I walked away for good. I took my small personal inheritance from my grandfather and poured everything into my passion, data and financial patterns. I built an algorithm, precise, elegant, and powerful. I called it Move, after the mourning doves that cooed outside my window. Move wasn't human. It was an entity, a living code, and through it, I founded Shellcode 7, a fund that grew into a quiet powerhouse. No one knew it was me. To the world, I was just Olivia from Cincinnati. The irony hit hard. My sister, the same one who mocked me for needing $150, was a middle manager at a bank I could buy 10 times over. I wasn't looking for revenge, but when I ran a quick quarterly review of my fund's investments, something caught my eye. My main institution had recently acquired several smaller banks, including one called Crescent Bank. My sister SEP's bank. Through a chain of acquisitions, her employer now served my fund. My sister, unknowingly, worked for me. That realization flipped a switch. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle. The same system that worshipped status and power had unknowingly handed that power to me, and I knew exactly what to do with it. That night, I worked with calm precision. No rage, no chaos, just strategy. At 3 a.m., I called my top legal counsel. "Good morning," I said steadily. "I need an emergency risk assessment meeting with the regional director of Crescent Bank SEP's parent company. The representative from Shell Code 7 will be M. Dove. I'll be attending personally." The storm wasn't coming anymore. It had already arrived. The next morning, I didn't dress like a billionaire. I wore a simple, elegant navy dress. No jewelry, no designer bag. My power wasn't in what I wore. It was in what I knew. For a brief moment, I hesitated. My mother's voice echoed in my mind. "Why cause such a fuss, Olivia?" I felt a pang of doubt. Was I becoming like them? Cruel, vindictive. I reached for my grandfather SEP's box and unfolded his note once more. "For the youngest, because she has the biggest heart. Use it when they forget who you are." He didn't say to use my anger or my money. He said to use my heart. And I realized strength isn't about letting people step over you. It's about boundaries. It's about self-respect. This wasn't set revenge. It was self-preservation. I tucked the note into my purse, my quiet armor, and walked out the door. When I entered Crescent Bank again, less than 24 hours later, everything had changed. A nervous-looking man, in an expensive suit, stood by the door. Mr. Marcus Chin, the regional director who had flown in from Chicago that morning. As soon as I entered, he hurried forward, extending his hand. "Miss Dove, it's an honor. I'm Marcus Chin. Thank you so much for coming," he said, eyes darting nervously around the room. Across the lobby, Vanessa stood near her glass-walled office, confusion crossing her face. When she saw me, her expression twisted into a sneer. She started walking toward me, likely ready to throw me out again, until she noticed Mr. Chin nearly bowing in deference, his face pale with anxiety. The arrogance on her face froze, replaced by disbelief. "Please, this way, Miss Dove," Mr. Chin said, gesturing toward Vanessa Sepp's office. "We can talk in here." We walked into the office, her personal kingdom. I sat in the visitor's chair while Mr. Chin remained standing, wringing his hands. Vanessa hovered in the doorway, arms folded, trying to project the authority she no longer had. "Shell Code 7 has some concerns," I began, my tone calm but firm. Mr. Chin swallowed hard. "Of course, Miss Dove. Anything. How can we assist?" "It's not about how you can help," I said, meeting his eyes briefly before turning to my sister. "It's about a decision we've already made. Due to serious concerns regarding the professional culture and management competency of this branch, Shell Code 7 is initiating a hostile asset transfer. Luster siktet pulkise. Initiating a hostile asset transfer." Mr. Chin turned pale. Vanessa blinked in confusion. "A what?" she asked. I finally looked directly at her. "It's a banking term, Vanessa. Let me simplify. It means my fund is declaring publicly that your bank's parent company is too incompetent and too risky to handle our assets. We're withdrawing all $4.2 billion and transferring it to a competitor. As per our agreement, we must state the reason. Loss of confidence in personnel, specifically at this branch." The color drained from Mr. Chin's face, but I was focused on Vanessa. I watched as understanding dawned on her. The name M. Dove, the enormous sum of money, me, the sister she'd mocked and dismissed. It all connected. "You," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It sets you." I offered a faint, sad smile. "Me? I just came in yesterday to withdraw $150. Remember?" That was the moment she broke. The confident bank manager, the family's golden child, fell apart. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed to the floor, tears streaking her perfectly made-up face. "No, no, please," she cried, crawling forward. "Olivia, don't set do this. You still destroy me, our family Sepp's reputation. What will Mom and Dad say?" Her pleas weren't for forgiveness. They were for her image, her status, her comfort. Even in despair, it was still about her. I stayed silent. Mr. Chin, face tight with fury, pointed toward her trembling figure. "You did this. You brought this on us. Get out, you stir-fired." Security arrived and lifted a sobbing Vanessa to her feet. I rose from my chair and looked at her one last time. "This was never about money, Vanessa," I said softly. "It was about respect, something you never learned to give." Then I turned to Mr. Chin. "The asset transfer stands." I walked out of the bank, the door hissing shut behind me, leaving the wreckage of her arrogance behind. There was no triumph, just silence, the calm before something larger. As I drove home, my phone began buzzing non-stop. A text from Cassandra, "OMG Liv. I heard something crazy happened with Vanessa. Are you okay? We should talk." Then a missed call from her husband, Gregory. Another message followed, this time from my mother Olivia, "Please call me. We're all very worried." Worried now, not before. Not when Vanessa humiliated me. But now that the balance of power had shifted, their sudden concern was as hollow as it was predictable. I let the phone buzz, ignoring every call. When I reached home, the phone rang again. For some reason I answered. "Olivia, thank God." My mother Sepp's voice burst through in panic. "What have you done? Vanessa is ruined. How could you be so cruel, so vindictive? After everything we Sepp done for you, you do this to your own sister. You have to fix this. Think of the family. Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry she treated you that way. Only think of the family." Something inside me went still. My voice when I replied was colder than I'd ever heard it. "You steer right," I said. "We need to talk about the family. All of us. One last time." "Yes," she said quickly, relieved. "We still come over and sort this out." "Sunday," I interrupted. "Dinner at my place. I'll text you the address. I hung up. This couldn't be a slow fade. It needed to be clean. One final reckoning. Sunday evening, they arrived. My father, my mother, Cassandra, and Gregory. As their car pulled up, I watched from the window as they stared, astonished. It wasn't my small apartment. It was a large, modern home, elegant, surrounded by trees, clearly expensive. Their faces showed a mix of shock and envy. I opened the door. "Welcome," I said simply. They stepped inside, looking around at the art and high ceilings. Dinner was laid out, simple but warm. They sat, and an uncomfortable silence filled the air until my father finally spoke. "All right, Olivia, you still made your point. You still wealthy. Now fix the mess you caused with your sister." Cassandra chimed in, her voice sweet but false. "He sets right live. Vanessa made a mistake, but ruining her life isn't set right. We sets from family. We should stand together." For 10 minutes, they lectured me. So dared me, about cruelty, secrecy, and embarrassment. My mother just nodded along. Not once did they mention what Vanessa had done. Not once did they ask how I felt. I waited until the room was thick with their hypocrisy. Then I stood, walked to a side table, and returned with a thin leather file. "If everyone sits done talking about how I ruined a life," I said quietly, "perhaps we can discuss how Cassandra has been ruining a legacy." Cassandra's face went white. "What are you talking about?" I opened the file. The family trust. The one grandfather created for all of us. The one he entrusted to me. Here, I slid a statement toward my father. "You'll see a series of withdrawals." And here, I added another page. Are the forged invoices Cassandra submitted from a shell company she created to justify them. For 2 years, she's been stealing. From all of us. The room went silent. Gregory looked horrified. My father's face turned gray. My mother stared at Cassandra, speechless. Finally, they saw the truth. That their perfect daughter wasn't just selfish, but dishonest. "You want to talk about family?" I said, my voice trembling slightly. "A real family doesn't do this. A real family doesn't measure love in status or money. You were never a family to me. You were investors in my pain." I took a deep breath. This isn't a family anymore. It's a failed business, and I am liquidating my shares. I looked at each of them. This is goodbye. Months have passed. The noise has quieted. Cassandra was fired. After an internal audit exposed her fraud. Vanessa works a low-level admin job now. I hear things occasionally, but it feels like news about strangers. Today, I stand in sunlight, surrounded by the scent of fresh earth and lavender. I'm at the new community garden wing of the library, a project I funded. The sign reads, "The Gable and Grandfather Reading Garden." Mrs. Gable sits on a bench, reading to children. She looks up, smiling warmly. My real family. I kneel to plant a small seedling, pressing the soil gently around it, and I finally understand. The most meaningful transaction of my life wasn't that $4.2 billion transfer. It was withdrawing my love, loyalty, and energy from a toxic account that had been empty for years. That account is permanently closed. As I finish planting, peace settles over me. I'm no longer the invisible daughter or the dismissed sister. I'm simply Olivia. And for the first time in my life, that's enough. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but it mattered. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from a person or situation to protect your peace? Share in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more.